Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases, unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online, and a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business, you'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Good sleep is everything. That's why Ollie's Science Back Support is made with a blend of melatonin and L-theanine for both kiddos and grown-ups. So when your mind won't switch off, you've got something that can help. Your racing thoughts and restless nights won't stand a chance. Find Ollie Sleep Solutions for the whole family at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey, who's now a Grogu fan, right?
Yes, Grogu. Okay, so I have to tell you, Jim, you inspired me. On our last episode, we were talking about the fun new merch that's coming out for Grogu or Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars, the new movie. And we just had May 4th by the time we're listening to this podcast. So I've not really seen Star Wars. I've seen the new Rey movies. I need to go back and watch the original. But I have been watching The Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, I've watched 2 full seasons since our last show.
And we were just talking off air about, you knew nothing going into these, right? I mean, for example, when people were talking about Baby Yoda, you had no idea what they were talking about?
No clue. Oh, I mean, obviously, I saw that. I literally thought it was Yoda. I thought that it was the baby version of Yoda, and it was the multiverse where there's just different timelines going on. No clue. No clue that he actually didn't have a name for 2 seasons. Is that right? I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it for anybody that's not watched it. How many years later?
Yeah, the show started in 2019. If you're only just getting to the table now, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But I was saying I'm late to the party with everything. I just started watching the Marvel movies last year. I'm the biggest Hamilton fan you'll ever meet. And I think I was 7 years late to the Hamilton bandwagon. I don't like to be influenced.
No, it's, again, that Nancy actually is kind of the same way. Nancy has this thing where if it's popular, maybe I don't want to see it because I don't want to, be a part of the herd, and then she will find something and go, oh, this is great, and it's just sort of well, yeah, it's been great for 5 years if you wanted to watch it, but once she start watching, she gets the black belt, that's her with Hallmark, and now you with the Mandalorian. So I think you were mentioning that. To be thorough, the next thing you're going to watch is what? The Book of Boba Fett, and that's at Eric's suggestion?
Yeah, well, he said that you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett before you watch the last season because it kind of ties it together. And Boba Fett is his personal jam, but he said that the interwebs, the community, did not like Book of Boba Fett. Is that, what do I have to look forward to?
No, I mean, the Book of Boba Fett is fine, but yeah, it does sort of tee up the story that they tell in season 3, and more to the point, I'm sure you can enjoy The Mandalorian and Grogu if you go in cold, but on the other hand, there are certain things that they are, setting up or paying off, so to speak, from the series that you'll see in the film.
Okay, so I have to tell you what sold me. So if anybody has not watched since 2019 and you want to join me on this party, is one, you were like, so it's like Sex in the City with the, it's a show and then a movie. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's interesting. But what really sold me was you were like, and it's this beautiful, father's journey. And I'm like, how is the Mandalorian Baby Yoda's father? What year did this happen? And so you did it, Jim. You convinced me.
And it is that aspect of it, that the whole protective dad thing. And in fact, that also comes into play in the film. And I'm not going to say any more because, again, it comes out on May 22nd, and I don't want to spoil it. So, so how about we talk about this merch podcast that we're doing?
Oh my gosh, yes, we have like a jam-packed episode. So we're going to try to get to all this news because it was, a heavy news-ish week. But how Disney, I don't know if you've heard about the Super app that's being talked about. So we're going to talk about that because the internet is chatting. We're going to talk about MagicBand in Disneyland, plus how toys are coming back in cereal boxes.
I just saw this in the Target cereal aisle this week. So yes, and that's all on the back of Toy Story 5. Really?
Yes. So lots and lots to get into. But before we jump into it, I do want to say again, thanks for being here with us on this journey. And if you're liking the show, we would really appreciate it if you would leave us a rating or a review and tell us what you want to hear us talk about on future episodes. But on that note, Jim, why don't we thank our sponsor?
Absolutely. And this episode of I Want That Too is brought to you by our friends at unlockmagic.com, the go-to place for some of the best deals on theme park tickets. If a Disney or Universal trip is anywhere on your radar for 2026, Unlock Magic helps you lock in great ticket prices without the stress, all handled by people who really know the parks, more importantly, how to save you money. So if you're thinking, okay, this is the year we finally go, head to unlockmagic.com to grab the best ticket deals and make that future trip just a little more magical. Okay, so now the news of the week, and hey, we're back to talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Okay, Jim, I saw this, and I literally put this in here just because I needed to ask you about it. So the story is that you're listening to this probably on May 7th, so we've passed our May the 4th window, but between the 4th and the 22nd, it looks like Burger King has a partnership where they rolled out a limited-time Star Wars-themed menu, and I'll tell you about all of the details in a second. But my question for you, Jim, is doesn't Disney have some type of relationship with McDonald's? Like, how did Burger King get Mandalorian and Grogu? This feels Lion King-esque from the 90s.
Well, what's kind of interesting about this is that this is kind of an air traffic control situation. I mean, Toy Story 5 arrives in theaters in mid-June, and McDonald's raised its hands for the fifth film in that Pixar series years ago. And it just became one of these situations where Disney wanted equal promotion for both The Mandalorian and Grogu and Toy Story 5. And it just, they were staring down the barrel of the fact that, I don't think that you can start the hype early enough for Toy Story 5 if you're also doing The Mandalorian and Grogu. In fact, what's fascinating is evidently McDonald's is already on board for next year's Star Wars movie, Star Wars Starfighter, the one with Ryan Gosling, which, by the way, if you're talking with folks at the studio, that's the good Star Wars movie. That's the one that's effectively going to relaunch the film franchise. I mean, no disrespect for The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a fun film, but it really sort of pays off all of the Disney Plus series, where Star Wars Starfighter, that's a brand new film, and again, Ryan Gosling.
I mean, Ryan Gosling, he's Ken. I mean, how can you go wrong?
There we go. There we go.
All right.
But the whole notion was that, look, we need a big push for Mandalorian and Grogu, but right behind that is Toy Story 5. And so it was just a notion of, look, no disrespect, but you can have Toy Story 5, and you're going to be very happy with the number of kids' meals you're going to sell. But we would like to walk Mandalorian and Grogu across the street to Burger King and not have you be difficult about this.
Okay. I was shocked, though. I mean, I was absolutely shocked to see this. And it looks like the same type of treatment that K-pop Demon Hunters is getting right now at McDonald's.
Yeah, very much so. A not just a single menu item, but multiple menu items. What we have the barbecued bounty Whopper, along with the Grogu blue cookie shake, which, if it tastes anything like the blue milk at the Disney theme parks, I will have nothing to do with this.
Did you see that they are doing their blue milk back out in grocery stores for, the May the 4th and this whole... I don't know.
I mean, it just, again, May the 4th is a big deal, coupled with the fact that, in both cases, in 2026 and 2027, there's new Star Wars coming out into theaters. So it's an opportunity. And again, hey, you've done the blue milk, right?
Oh, yeah. We have done the blue milk, the green milk. There was pink milk at Disneyland.
Hey, okay.
I mean, it's fine. Not my particular, favorite beverage, but, it's fine.
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I group it with holiday eggnog.
Yes.
You get excited. You see it. To see holiday eggnog, and you bring it home, and then you pour yourself a glass and go, oh, it's eggnog. It's like,
and then it goes bad, and then you throw it away.
There we go. It sits in your fridge after you have that one drink of eggnog, and then you remember. It's like candy corn at Halloween.
Yes.
Everybody thinks they want it until they actually eat it, and then it sits in the bowl until you throw it away. So.
Yes. Oh, but this is a merch, though, so I do have to mention real quick. There are 4 collectible cups that are being sold with some of the combo meals. And what I'm interested in is there's a digital component that you scan like a QR code, and there's some type of augmented reality experience. So it is not May 4th yet, and our local Burger King does not have this yet. But if you do the augmented reality experience, please let us know how that goes. But moving on from fast food to cereal, and from Mandalorian and Grogu to Toy Story, I personally was so jazzed to see that Kellogg's was reintroducing toys inside of cereal boxes. I mean, did you? We're talking about this. Toy Story is coming out June 19th, but starting today, which is Sunday, you'll be able to get toys. What's in the cereal box, Jim?
Well, right now, in fact, we have the images here in the show notes. We have a Buzz Lightyear and a Woody that look kind of on model, and then there's, to be honest, a horrifying Jessie Spoon.
Does she look like a demon?
She does. All right, and it just, I mean, I'm one of those people who I like a quiet morning. I don't want to be eating cereal with a demonic, cowgirl staring at me. But on the other hand, there are collector cards too, right?
Yeah, so there are collector cards as well. And just to clarify, the demonic Jessie is actually a spoon. So these Buzz, Woody, and Jessie are like super creepy, and we're calling them toys because it looks like they do stand up. But it looks like their head pops off and reveals the spoon. And so if you're looking for how to get your hands on these, they're Kellogg's, so Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, Corn Pops, and they're labeled on the boxes what you're getting. But my question for you, Jim, is do you remember when they stopped putting toys and prizes in the cereal boxes?
And wasn't that, on the back of, again, there's nothing quite so dangerous as a group of concerned parents, right? Just, the whole notion of, children should eat healthy things at breakfast and, not sugary cereal. And they certainly shouldn't be induced to buy a particular cereal because of the toy that was in the box. So it is kind of interesting, especially given what's going on now, with food and drug at the U.S. government level. I mean, you've heard about the push about, to remove certain food dyes.
Oh, yeah, like red dye number 5.
There we go. And it's going to be interesting to see, for example, are we going to be quite as enthusiastic about Fruit Loops, or, when they're all beige? If the food dye goes away.
Yeah, I do not know, but like from a 90s kid, like growing up, like that was one of the things that we looked forward to, and there were still prizes in the Cracker Jack boxes, I believe. And I'm hoping that this is successful and that Kellogg sells a ton of cereal and we start getting things back in the cereal boxes. Just a little treat to look forward to.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have been a fan of Disney-related toys in boxes since, the mid-1960s when the Winnie the Pooh themed Spoon Riders came in your box of puffed wheat.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm team toys and cereal boxes, but let us know if you will be buying this cereal just to get the toy. Even though we probably don't actually need what's in the cereal box. I want it anyway. But speaking of things that you don't need, Disneyland, our friends on the West Coast, they don't think you need to be buying MagicBands anymore at their theme parks.
Yeah, and
are you sad, Jim?
I mean, the weird part of this is that again, once upon a time, Mr. Test and I got access to the deck, the PowerPoint presentation that was shown to Disney theme park employees about the full rollout of MagicBands. And that's the thing. You need to understand that only a tenth of what the MagicBands could do at the Disney resorts ever got turned on, Lauren. I mean, there were so many additional extra features built into these things. So many ways that we're supposed to make your trip to Walt Disney World that much more magical and that much more personal. So, the notion of here we are with the news that, they're not going to be sold at Disneyland anymore. And there is some functionality left on, but not everything that they were supposed to originally have.
And they were never really, like, from what I understand, the 3 visits that we've had to Disneyland in the last couple of years, they just never really caught on there like they did at Disney World, because there's 3 hotels, so likelihood is you're not staying on property, like you're not charging stuff to your room on them. Like when we went out this time, because we take them because we're Disney World people, and so like we very much use them for everything at Disney World, and we were able to scan for like the 70th to get those commemorative little tickets, but you could also do that with your phone.
And that ultimately is what it came down to. The reality was you first had to convince somebody to buy a MagicBand, whereas everybody walking through the door has a phone. And the notion was, well, look, if we're trying to, involve as many guests as possible, ultimately, let's go with the thing they already have. But that's the thing. Disneyland initially looked at all of the money that Walt Disney World was making just on turkey legs. And it's like, yes, we want MagicBands. But in the end, what was fascinating about this story was that what ultimately killed MagicBands was the fact that the overseas resorts, looked at this technology and look what it was going to cost to bring into the parks in Paris and Tokyo and Hong Kong and China. And they were like, we're good. We don't need to do this. So
I do miss the days, though, Jim, when you used to get them for free. Not the MagicBand Plus, but like Disney World pre-COVID. And you could get them every time you stayed at a Disney resort. And we would do like resort hopping. And so we have just like hangars full of MagicBands. I mean, we probably have hundreds because you think about it, we're a family of 5. You have a trip where you're staying a couple places. So I don't think anything is changing at Disney World, at least not yet, because if you just look at how people interact out there. I mean, everybody's used to doing it on their phone, where if you're at Disney World, you almost feel like buying a MagicBand is like a must. Like you should do it, even though you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, again, they were an essential part of the Disney World vacation experience. In fact, it was so funny that people would, at post-vacation, kids would wear them to school because it was like, hey, look, sort of the visual reminder, well, yes, my family and I just did go to Disney World, and we used this to spend way too much money. So
yes, I remember our pastor coming in after his first trip at Disney since, he was probably a kid, and he wore it to church, and he was like, hey, look at this. Look, I was just at Disney. It was so cute.
No, it was
so cute. He was like, do you see this?
It was.
Okay, well, speaking of technology, one more thing I want to get your opinion on is, so all the news was breaking yesterday that Disney is reportedly looking at developing a super app, thinking an Amazon of Disney, where it would bring everything together under one umbrella, and that includes the parks, cruises, retail, streaming services, all the things, kind of like what we're seeing with Disney Plus integrating Hulu and ESPN, but literally everything. And so it would be creating kind of a hub where you could do all things Disney. I did do a little TikTok on this because I wanted to see if people were how people felt about this, and it was overwhelming that people do not like the idea. So I wanted to hear from you, Jim. What do you think about them developing a super app?
Well, okay. Now, what's important to understand about this is evidently a passion project of Josh D'Amaro, the new CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And, Josh evidently has always argued that, we have these separate silos with very passionate fan bases. For example, the Disney Cruise Line of all of the Disney entities has the most loyalty. The folks who cruise again multiple times. But at the same time, the company does sell vacation packages, especially in Florida for people who go on Disney cruises. Likewise, there is a very big Venn diagram of folks who buy tickets to the Disney theme parks who will buy tickets to either a Disney show on Broadway or, a touring company of a Disney show. And they're beginning to see the same thing, as you just mentioned, with Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, that sort of thing. And so Josh's argument is lean into our strength. And as you just mentioned, when you look at the Amazons of the world, where it's, Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon Prime Television coupled with, the purchases you can make, done correctly, this could be a game changer for Disney. The only problem is, and again, sort of circling back to MagicBands, is Disney is great at talking big about tech, but necessarily actually delivering the goods when it comes to tech. And the fact that Disney for years, again, people standing outside of the Disney company who look at Disney, see, this entertainment monolith, the great and powerful Walt Disney Company. Whereas those of us who have been covering the company for the past 40 years or so know that in reality, Disney is 30 little companies that share the same name and sometimes share the same agenda, but often is not fight with one another. Don't get along, don't communicate all that well. And now, mind you, we have seen the signs that, Josh is like, okay, that's over. We're going to start consolidating. We're going to start being smart. And for example, I think we talked on a recent I Want That Too about, for example, the change that was just made marketing-wise at the Disney company, where, Josh effectively said, hey, guys, here's the deal. ESPN and Pixar and, and the theme parks and the studio, you all have marketing departments. And there is, there's lots of redundancy. We're going to change that. They severely reduced headcount. They have now an Ubermeister in charge of marketing, and that seems to be the model going forward.
I think it's also, I know nobody ever likes to hear of anybody losing their job, so disclaimer with that, so not to be insensitive.
Absolutely.
But I think it probably is designed also to improve the communication and to break down some of those silos and make sure that everybody is living the same philosophy from a corporate perspective. So yeah. I get it.
Yeah, and I again, it is interesting to see that, and it's one of these things where, like, did this leak, or is this something that Disney deliberately walked out to see what Wall Street's reaction would be? I mean, I'm going to be fascinated to follow this story going forward. The notion of the super app, and just the notion of I don't know how much digging down you've done into this, but the notion of how, for example, when you buy something on Amazon, they will give you points which you can then apply to your next purchase. Mm-hmm. That is supposed to be a big component of this, and the notion of whatever you spend.
You're already seeing it. Like we talked a couple weeks ago about like the Disney Plus subscriber deal for rooms in the theme park that were $99.
There we go.
It was kind of, like a couple little hoops to jump through to get to that. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing that left and right. If you were a Disney Plus subscriber, you could get D23 for free. So I don't think Disney, I don't think this stuff is by accident. I think there's probably some.
Not at all, especially given what's going on with the economy right now.
Yes.
Anything that makes you feel like, you're getting a break. Whether it's cheaper admission to the theme parks or hotel rooms or Broadway tickets or however it works. And that then builds customer loyalty and additional satisfaction. It's like, that's a smart move on Disney's part. So
right. And I know this isn't Disney related, but just this week, like they didn't just come out with it this week, but I have the Amazon credit card and I get 5% cash back. So all of my purchases from Amazon go to this card. And I'm like, when I'm thinking about Amazon versus Walmart, like I take that into consideration. Well, this week I signed up for their OnePay card that now they give 5% cash back. So I think, with Disney rolling out its new credit card with rewards, I think that we're going to see more of this, whether you're liking it or not, because I don't think that it's the fan community that's going to embrace it one way or another. I don't think that we as a community would have said, yes, please bring Hulu and ESPN into Disney Plus. It's fine. It's there. You know what I mean? But we shall see. We'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Absolutely. So, but and interesting, because we were just talking about the Disney fan community. When we get back from this break, we're going to take a look at the early days of the Disney fan community and kind of the strange way that it got going. But first, there's this.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You tell yourself, no one wants your college-era band tees. But on Depop, people are searching for exactly what you've got. You once paid a small fortune for them at merch stands. Now, a teenager who calls them vintage will offer that same small fortune back. Sell them easily on Depop. Just snap a few photos and we'll take care of the rest. Who knew your questionable music taste would be a money-making machine? Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
And we're back. Okay, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong. We are 3 installments into our history of Disney fan events at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that the farmers market is what started it, and then the Disney store kind of coming back.
There we go.
Yes, so I'm hoping that we're going to get to. Are we talking about the fan club today?
We are.
Yeah.
And
I want
I'm
my
not
D23 shirt for you.
Yes, and by the way, we were talking a little bit about that off air before we get started here, because Lauren and I, when we went to the last D23 expo out in California, both were kind of startled to go into the official Disney D23 store. The morning the event officially opened, and the cupboard was bare, right?
Yes. And I was told Jim I was so happy to grab this spirit jersey because there was literally nothing the next day, nothing.
Well, that's again the folks who pay for the sorcerer's apprentice level at the event get first access to the store. And, in fact, it has now become something of a D23 Expo tradition to watch the folks with their arms loaded with merch that they bought in the official store marching back to their hotel rooms with all of their legally bought material, but they're going back to their hotel room to immediately list it on eBay and make big bucks off of what they bought. But anyway, I have to say, folks, me personally, I have great fondness for these sorts of events. And not just because I met my first wife, Michelle, at a National Fantasy Fan Club back in the summer of 1992. In fact, we married, I want to say 8 months after that, at the Beach Club, January of 93. And sadly, marriage didn't last. We're still good friends. And we, of course, have our lovely daughter, Alice. But Lauren, I am nothing if not consistent, because some 4 years later, I actually met Nancy at a Mouse Club East event up in Boston.
You have a type, Jim.
I do. But that was November of 96, and she and I got together the following year after my divorce, and we have been together 28 years now. And more to the point, these Disney fan events that I attended in the late 80s and early 90s are, Lauren, where I met my people. In fact, when I first saw David Mumford and Bruce Gordon, the Imagineers, up on stage at a National Fantasy Fan Club, blending humor and Disney theme park history, it's like, that's it. That's the job I want. And here we are today. But the interesting thing, Lauren, is early on, for starters, the Mouse Club was not all that newcomer friendly. In fact, it was downright cliquish. In fact, Ed Levin, the founder of the Mouse Club, he flat out decided, out ahead of the first fan club event, and again, this was August of 1982, it would not be open to the public. In fact, you couldn't get in unless you were already a Mouse Club member. And now, mind you, there was an aspect of the event that was actually open to the public, but this was room hopping. Have you ever heard of this practice?
No.
All right. Well, what's interesting about a Disney fan event is that, again, you weren't able to get on the show floor at the Jolly Roger Hotel there in Anaheim unless you were an official Mouse Club fan member. But on the other hand, that night and in the halls of the hotel, so many of the event attendees threw open the doors to their hotel rooms and had laid out their collection and items that they had for sale on their beds and their dressers and that sort of thing. And a lot of people who couldn't get into the event could do shopping and could see all these collectibles by wandering the halls of the hotel. But at the same time, there were so many people who came away from this event offended by what Ed had done. But from Ed's point of view, it was like, it's like, look, we're not in this. This is a quote. This is what he told the local reporters in Southern California. We're not in this for profit. This is a labor of love. And if you don't love this stuff, forget it. Don't come. If you don't know what you're doing, stay away from this event. This is for people knowledgeable of Disneyana. So, that's welcoming. Don't you think, Lauren?
It sounds like something I'd want to go do.
There we go.
If you're not at our level, get out.
No, that's it exactly. So this is why, and mind you, there's a second event held the following summer, August 17th through the 19th, 1983. Again, we're back at the Jolly Roger. And what's fascinating is by now, the Disney company has decided, all right, maybe we do want to be involved with this. So they literally send a camera crew down from the Disney Channel. And more to the point, Disney Channel Magazine actually writes up the event, which, by the way, kind of goes poorly because, again, Ed's doing the same thing. It's like, no, you can't come in if you're not a member. and this is the thing. At this event, Wayne Allwayne, the official voice of Mickey Mouse, is there. Clarence Nash, the guy who's been voicing Donald Duck since the 30s, is there. Adriana Casaletti, the voice of Snow White, the original, she's there. And all of these people are there, ready to meet with folks. And again, the notion of you can't come in, if you're not a member. And this so offends a bunch of folks that, are sort of circling the Mouse Club, that they meet quietly and they decide, maybe we need to set up our own club. And what they decided to take advantage of is, Ed had decided that, the very next year, 1984, was going to be the year the Olympics, the Summer Olympics, going to be held in L.A. And, and everyone in Los Angeles has basically been warned, oh, my God, the whole world is coming here. The highways will be jammed. It's going to be a bad summer to try to do anything. And Ed decided, then I don't want to hold an event. And these folks decided, if Ed's not going to hold an event, this would probably be the good time to launch our own Disney Club. And that's what they did. They launched the National Fantasy Fan Club. And over time, because, to be polite here, there were a number of folks like, the National Fantasy Fan Club? What are you guys, swingers? It's like, no. We're Disney collectors. And over time, they shortened the club's name. It became its initials, the NFFC. And that got underway that year, 1984.
Were they a little bit more inclusive? Like, you can come to the party just if you like it?
That they were. And also, look, the other thing that sort of went on at the same time here is around the same window of time, Ed Levin developed cancer. And between the surgeries he was having, he just realized that, I don't think I can run the Mouse Club anymore. So he hands it off to Kim and Julie McEwen, who live up in San Jose, and well, they honeymooned at Disneyland. They had 2 young daughters, and they were kind of like, okay, please disregard what Ed did. We're going to be happier, more inclusive, and for August of 1985, they were like, oh, and not only that, and we're not going to be at the teeny little Jolly Roger Motel anymore. We're going to do our next convention at the Emerald Hotel in Anaheim, one of the newer hotels, and this time around, more than 400 members and their guests could attend. And the McEwens also, wanted to put the word out that, I know we're a club that started because, people were having trouble finding Disney collectibles, but we don't want the convention to become a toy show. We want to bring in people who enjoy what Walt did, who enjoy the magic of Disneyland. And so for this show, Lauren, this was the first time that Imagineers of the modern era showed up. You had Tony Baxter, you had, but at the same time, you had the guys who helped Walt himself get the park going, like Herbie Ryman and Ken Anderson. And in fact, what's kind of interesting is Ken at the 1985 convention, he came and did this full presentation on the never-built Africa Pavilion at Epcot, which, by the way, Len, Jim Schul, and I used a lot of the info that Ken shared back in 1985 as part of a recent episode that we did of the Disney Unpacked show. And the McEwens, to their credit, they started additional conventions. Like, for example, instead of just doing one in the summer, they would do one in the winter, their mini Mouse Club event. And, and that was a one-day show and sale that started in 88. They also started the Mouse Club East, which, again, is where I met Nancy. But in the end, you had the Walt Disney Company looking at both the Mouse Club and the NFFC and thinking, we should probably get into that game. And they did. And we will talk about the first official Disney-produced convention from 1992 in a moment. But first, this.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
And we're back. So, again, Lauren, you've done the D23 Expo, and you enjoyed it because you're going back this year.
Yes, very much.
But, would you be surprised to learn that, Disney made a run at the official fan event thing in the early 90s, only to ultimately let it go because it wasn't making enough money?
Because they're not doing it just for the love of it. They're doing it for a profit, which is very different.
Yeah, and that was the thing about the official Disney Anna convention. This got announced in 91, and the very first one was actually held at Walt Disney World, September 24th through the 27th, right there in the convention center at the Contemporary, and they really leaned into it, Lauren. They had all sorts of limited edition merch, they had guest speakers, they had auctions, and I want to say 750 people paid to attend this inaugural event. And what was interesting about it, or at least from my point of view, is that I was there down there covering the event, and I had this extraordinary encounter with Andreas Deja, who's a lot of folks will know Andreas from, he was the animator who did Scar in The Lion King. He's the animator who did Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. And he was working on Hades for Hercules when I met him at the event. And in fact, I'm literally on the show floor. We're both at a paper booth going through old magazines and that sort of thing. And he's there as a civilian. He's just come to the event because, he loves Disney as well. And we strike up a conversation, and Andreas proceeds to tell me that, just prior to flying out to this event, they had fired John Lithgow. He was the original voice of Hades. And, just with the notion of, that they didn't think he was funny enough. Now, mind you, what you love about this, Lauren, is they fire John Lithgow, who then turns around and gets a lead role on NBC's Third Rock from the Sun, and John Lithgow then for 2 years running wins the best comic actor lead Emmy, because he's not funny.
It's the best kind of spite.
But what was so sweet about Andreas is I've been animating to this guy for 6 months, and now we have to hire a whole new guy. And Andreas is like, well, who do you think should be the voice of Hades? Because we almost got Jack Nicholson, but he wanted too much money. And do you have any ideas? And it's just sort of like, I'm just a schlub in the booth alongside of you. Why you're pumping me for opinions. But he was asking everybody at the event, I need a voice for Hades. Got any ideas? But this was the same event, by the way, where, my then fiancée, Michelle and I were there, and we had befriended Mark and Alice Davis at a fan event that we had attended, an NFFC event we had attended earlier that summer. And we would run into the Davises at these official Disney fan events for the next 2 and 3 years. And by then we were living in Florida, and whenever we would show up, we would bring my daughter Alice. And Alice Davis, who, Michelle had told was named after Alice Davis, whereas I knew that my daughter Alice was actually named after Michelle's sister Alice. But Alice Davis, would grab the baby and hold her for the rest of the event. I mean, she loved having Alice there. And by the way, Alice was a very, very cute little girl. And in fact, so much so that on a parallel track, we went to a Star Trek convention in the same window of time, and Morena Sirtis, the woman who played Troy, pretty much did the same thing. We went by with the stroller. She went, "What a cute baby! I'm going to hold it for the rest of the show." And and kept talking to Alice. "You want to go back to California with me, don't you, Alice?" But anyway, with the official Disney fan club, the conventions that, they would alternate between Disneyland and Disney World. But they kept coming up against the issue that this is expensive. I mean, this is really, really expensive. And coupled with the fact that what Disney was asking people to pay for limited edition, merch and porcelain and that sort of thing. In the end, by 2002, the company decided, all right, we're just not making enough money. Let's table this idea for now. And okay, now, Laura, I'm going to tell the part of the story that Disney doesn't like me to tell.
The juicy stuff.
That juicy stuff. All right, the National Fantasy Fan Club, the folks who ran that, actually meet with Disney about 2 years after the very last official Disney fan club event was held. And they're basically like, look, let me explain to you what you did wrong, and how we think, if the two of us collaborate on this, I bet, we could make these things profitable for you. I bet we could have a bigger fan base. You need a magazine to support it, and you need this, you need that. And Disney nodded and smiled and said, thank you. but we're not interested in what you're selling. And then 2 years later, D23 was announced, and it was pretty much the exact same playbook that the NFFC had walked into the door to the Disney Corporation. And it was one of these things where the folks that were in charge of the company were like, well, or again, the NFFC were like, what do we do about this? And it's like, well, we didn't invent the fan club, and the fact that, Disney is now using some of our ideas. A lot of the ideas that we propose for them aren't exactly new or copywritten. So we just have to nod and smile and move on. And so this is how we wound up with the event that you and I will be attending come August of this year.
Wasn't it a passion project of Bob Iger? Did I hear that?
Well, Mr. Iger, I mean this in the kindest possible way. Bob is not necessarily a passionate guy, but he is a pragmatic guy. And, the notion was that, is there an affordable way to do an official Disney fan club? And that was ultimately, and let's be honest here, Bob was also watching what was happening online and how other folks were telling Disney stories in the online space. And it's like, no, we need to be in there. We need to control our own story. And so that's a lot of what D23 was about, giving them a strong online presence. But yeah, Bob was pragmatic, and this is what's going to get fascinating. In fact, this is, let's be honest here, folks, this is one of the reasons that Lauren and I definitely had to attend the 2026 edition of the D23 Expo, because this is the first to reflect Josh D'Amaro's agenda for the Disney company. And it's going to be interesting to see, what is a fan event filtered through Josh's interests and priorities look like.
But do you think that this was carryover from Bob, or do you think this will be truly under his purview? Because didn't you say they got rid of the publishing, they got rid of the marketplace?
Yeah, it's an interesting already early shape for this event. And remember, Josh came out of the parks to run the company. So the assumption is, look for an event that really, really sells the parks. Whereas, again, something like Disney Publishing or the fact that they have such a little presence there does not indicate good things for the future of that arm of the company. Speaking of the future, though, I want to remind folks that next month, to be specific, June 12th through the 14th, is when Dayton Disneyana is being held. And I bring this up. In fact, we started this whole series because the folks who run Dayton Disneyana have announced that this will be the very last one of these fan events. It's going to be held at the Hope Hotel and Holbrook Conference Center at the Air Force Base there. And they're going to have all sorts of guest speakers like Tom Nabby, the original Tom Sawyer, at Disneyland. So pin trading, and there's going to be a show floor with all sorts of folks selling stuff. So if you want to get a sense of what it would have been like, on the floor of the Jolly Roger Hotel. Mind you, if you had a membership and Ed Levin
would
actually...
at the right level of knowledge.
There we go. If it would actually let you in. But yeah, that's that Dayton Disneyana, again, June 12th through the 14th. So, but anyway, on that note, that brings this series to a close.
And it's been a good one, Jim. It did not disappoint. So thank you for keeping it interesting around here based on what's in the news. So very excited to see what comes of all this. But I think we're out of time and we should close up shop here for today, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. By the way, folks, if you want to keep up with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, please follow us on social.
Yes, and if you have an idea or a question about a future episode, Jim's at jim@jimhillmedia.com, and I'm at Lauren at laurenhersey.com. And I don't think Eric's going to send you an email, but he did have a request for what are the little Star Wars action figures, something with a V. But he was like, Jim should definitely do a series on those because they're so fascinating.
Okay. All right. Sounds like fun.
Yes, but that does it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.